Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Golden Egg Sunday. Happy church. Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be here again. And I have got some really awesome tools to share with you today, really specific tools to support you in this season, to support you in your relationship with money. So, without further ado, I'm going to do. And please pop in and say hi. Let me know that you're here. I won't know if you're here if you don't leave a comment. So, I'm excited to play with you today. Okay, so we're talking about expansion versus contraction today. And I want to talk about this in particular with regards to money. And we do this in every area, and we're kind of these systems that we expand and then we contract, and this is how we were born, right? Like in labor, we're like, and so we have this in our body of this sort of place where we tend to, and in particular when we're in transition, because birth is the first transition that we have, if we tend to kind of live our lives in this sort of expand, contract. And I don't know anybody who always lives in the expanded spaces, but it's really about learning how, and this is going to sound weird, not to contract the contraction. So to understand, and this is really important with regards to money, is that money is energy, and energy expands and contracts. Nature is abundant, and then in the wintertime, it's all like the abundance hides underground for a minute. It's not that we're not abundant, it's just that the leaves are in a different position, right? They're not like showing, right? They're under the ground, and they're nourishing the earth for the next season, right? And so a lot of people think that they can't be expanding around money unless they have a certain amount in their account. Hi, Lotta. Thanks for joining. And in my upcoming course, Becoming a Money Whisperer, it's the intention of the course is to teach us all, because I'm always learning too, is that I can be expansive. I can have a flow with money. I can have a dance with money that's really beautiful and easeful and joyful, regardless of what's in my account. And so a lot of us we've gotten in the habit of like only being expansive with money when we have a certain amount in our account, right? And so today I want to talk about, especially at this time of year where people tend to have contraction around money, I want to talk about how you can stay expanded even when the rest of the world is contracting. And also how to recognize what contraction is and where it comes from. So contraction in particular with money comes from, it either comes from we're tapping the collective, which at this time of year is like really prevalent, right? It's like, we feel it sometimes even when we wake up, this contraction around our space. And so one of the first things you want to do is this mine? And as soon as you say that, if it's not yours, you'll start feeling your space coming back. It's really a cool and beautiful tool. It's from Access Consciousness. Sometimes why we contract is a habit. We're just used to contracting around money. Our parents contracted around money. The people in our lives contract. And so to fit in, we go, oh, I should probably contract around money, And so there's habit. And then there's also the past. So a lot of times we're focusing on things that have happened, things that, bad things that happened before, or maybe you haven't really ever gotten into the flow with money that you want. And so you're kind of in this habit of like, oh, well, it's always going to be hard, right? And that's a past concept. And it doesn't have to be right now, because in every 10 seconds, we get to choose. We get to choose if we expand or contract. But first we have to recognize when we're in contraction. There's a lot of times that For those of us who have been really good survivors, a lot of times we don't understand when we're in contraction because we're just getting through. We're getting through and we know how to survive hard situations and we don't even recognize the contraction. So first of all, you've got to recognize that if you're not in a space of joy, of happiness, of peace, that actually, because that's the nature of your being. So if you're not feeling that, sensing that in any way, you're probably either in the past or you're in the collective. And so these tools that I'm going to be sharing with you today, and the ones I just shared of like, is this mine, are really helpful tools to really instantly come back to the space of you. And when you spend some time, and that's why my program's 21 days, and I'm going to be doing 21 days of Zooms and lives, and we're going to spend some time digging in and actually creating a flow and a dance with money that's going to be just so much easier, so much more joyful. And it's not about what's in your account. The nature, I don't care who you are. I don't care. I've worked with some really rich people. I've interviewed some very rich people, and everybody goes through lean times. I don't care who you are, right? And even if it's not lean, like there's a lot of people that have a lot of money that contract even when they have like $100 million in their account, and it's part of that habit of the collective. Like if I have money, I got to worry about if I'm going to keep it and if there's going to be more. And now I've got this lifestyle to maintain and like, all of that is sort of this reality's idea about money. And I want to really help people, including myself, really learn how to navigate those murky waters where things don't look good on the outside. And one of the things that you have to understand, and one of the questions that you can ask if your bank account isn't where you want it to be, is like, is this the winter before the spring, right? Is it that there's nothing, or is it that there's something ready to come out of the ground? So in that particular case, you want to really look. One of my favorite new tools that I've been playing with is that I've had a sense that there's something really expansive coming this year for me. And I think just in this next phase of my life. And I know that even though things aren't always where I want them to be right now, I can open the door to my future. And I can feel the me that's progressed a little further down, right? And I can tap the space of my future and bring it here now. It's like, what does my future self know about what's happening right now, right? Oftentimes too, like, if you're in a place where you have less funds than you normally do, it's very, very common for things to really contract before a big expansion. And this is part of the natural flow of contraction and expansion. And that's what I meant by, just because there's some contraction in the flow, or it doesn't look like there's resources coming in, or it doesn't look like there's abundance, that oftentimes it's simply because we can't perceive it or see it yet. There's choices that we've made that are nourishing the soil, right, where the seeds of the abundance are, and they may not just be out of the ground yet. And so I find it really powerful to tap the future. So go ahead and do that. Like, let's tap into, and it could be a year down the road, it could be 5 years down the road, but the part of you that really has gained consciousness and awareness around financial flows, and you're living in a different space, right? So I want you to go ahead and tap that you, and allow that energy, that consciousness in right now, so you can create from your future. I say a lot, like, abundance isn't a place to get to, it's a place to come from. Prosperity isn't a place to get to, it's a place to come from. But it's really tricky to come from wealth and prosperity when you can't see it in your accounts yet. That's tricky business. And so that's a lot of what we're going to be playing with. And hi, Jewel, love you too. Um, we're going to be playing with tools to actually create a space of okay, right? And now you may not be thrilled with what's in your bank account right now, right? And that's not the point. The point is that you have a sense of you. You have a sense of what's being created, and you have a sense of what's coming. The other part of it is like, let's say that you had made some choices to expand your income flows, right? You've been working on your consciousness around it. Maybe you're creating something to bring new flows in, right? But if you sit and go, oh gosh, the economy, what's going to happen next year? What's going to be in the future? I don't know. I don't know. You actually can undo what you already put in process, right? And it's like, we're really used to, especially in the West, we're used to this sort of McDonald's mentality of like, I've ordered the food, it should be here right now. I've ordered more abundance, it should be here right now, right? The universe oftentimes has to rearrange a lot to come into harmony with what we're asking for now and the seeds we're planting now, right? So take a moment and see if you can connect with the choices that you've made that have already expanding your future financial flows, and acknowledge that. Acknowledge what you're putting in place. Acknowledge the spaces and places where you really started breaking free and choosing more and believing in yourself and trusting yourself to create. Like, tap that place and bring it into the now. So that's another very important piece to this, because it's kind of like if you were to go and plant a bunch of seeds and they didn't come up in the first 3 weeks or even 6 weeks, and all you got were weeds, and you're like, the seed didn't work. Well, no, the seeds are doing their thing underground. Oh, what is my hair doing here? The seeds are being nourished, and they're coming to fruition, and they're maybe not above the ground yet. And so our work then is to clear the weeds to give it the best chance of coming through, right? And so oftentimes when you ask for more, or when you're like, okay, that's it, I'm choosing to create at a new level, oftentimes, and this actually happened to me recently, like a lot, we kick up the dust. We're like, I'm choosing to be wealthy. And then what happens is all of your constructs, the choices you've made, the doubts and the fears you've placed in your soup rise to the surface, because they're not in harmony with what you've just asked for. So sometimes when you actually choose greater, it feels like there's this contraction that happens after. And it's simply the universe showing you, hey, this might be in the way. You might want to clear this, because this is in the way of your seed coming up out of the ground. Does that make sense? So that is Brianna. Hi, Brianna. Hello, everybody. All the people that are showing up here live. Thanks for joining me live. It's always funner to talk to real people, you know what I mean? The other part of it is when you show up live, I have this little gift that I have where I can tap the people that are live with me, whether it's in person or on a live, and I can speak to the questions you're coming with, the energy you're coming with, what's required for you. So there's an advantage to coming on these things live. So one of the other things that you can do is simply expand your space. And this is another tool from Access Consciousness, of which I am a facilitator. And all you have to do is, like, you say you're feeling like, "Eh." So when you're doing you you put barriers up. It's kind of like, you guys have probably all felt this when you've walked into an elevator full of people, right? And you walk in, and even if you're not contracted, you feel the contraction of everybody around you. And this is very much a metaphor for what happens at Christmas time for people, right? We're in this elevator with, 5 million people, 100 million people, and they're all contracting. And so we walk in and we go, oh, guess I better contract, right? And so one of the things that I've been practicing a lot in elevators is bringing my barriers down and, like, looking people in the eye and actually receiving the energy in the elevator, right? It's a really good practice around contraction and expansion. So once you ask your barriers to go down, and you simply ask, okay, I lower my barriers. I ask that all my barriers that I have to receiving lower right now. Do that with me. I imagine it kind of as the electric windows in cars. And then expand your space, because you're an infinite being and you can coexist in the multiverses simultaneously. So expand your space in all directions, down into the earth, up into the sky. 1,000 miles, 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 50,000, 100,000. And now some of those numbers you might go, how do I do that? Get out of the how, lower. When you think like that, that's a barrier. Ask the barrier to low down. This isn't cognitive, right? This is energetic. So I'm teaching you to get out of the cognitive, which is where most of the contraction lies. I would say 100% of our contraction lies in the cognitive, right? And go into the energetic, going into our being, the essential self, to expand our space of consciousness. One of the problems with contracting with money is that when we literally contract like this, we actually constrict the flows. So when something happens financially, an unexpected bill, or maybe you were expecting money and it didn't come, or whatever, right? What happens is that we contract around that, so there's even less flow that can come to us. So it's even more important to expand when it doesn't look like you should be expanding, right? And so this is a great tool to just go, okay? So, and if you could only connect with that for a few seconds, that's okay. You just opened something. You opened to receive something you hadn't before. And so here, I'm going to go into my final tool of the day. Joy is our natural state, okay? If you prioritize joy, and what does that look like? I don't know what that looks like for you. For me, it looks like, okay, what can I do with my hair? No, like, what can I choose today that will bring joy to me? What will be joyful for me? And prioritize joy, because money follows joy. Money follows. Like, when you expand, you create like a vacuum and you pull things to you. So your magnetic energy turns up and on when you expand as well. Isn't that fun? So the more energy and time and choices you make for joy, the more that you can let in more flows. You actually create a vacuum for more to come to you. And the way that I like to look at it is, if today is a party, right? And your energy and space is what is inviting things to the party. Is your energy and space inviting money to the party? Does money want to come to your party? Or are you having a pity party? Is money like, no, I don't want to go to that party today. You're not having any fun. My personal reality with money, and I talked about this on yesterday's live. If you haven't seen yesterday's live, please tune in. I'm doing this 6 series of lives every day at 9:30 for the 6 golden eggs. I'm calling the 6 golden eggs of Christmas, right? And all of the ways that we can access our golden eggs. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday too. But if you're in contraction, your viewfinder's super small. And if there's a golden egg over here or over here, you ain't going to see it. Meaning, by golden egg, I mean a creation point, a possibility for more, for greater, for choosing more, right? And so a lot of times when we're in contraction and we're in a state of lack, all we can see is lack and all we can sort for is lack. And there could be golden eggs all around and we wouldn't even see it. And I had a very visceral experience of that when I was starting my rapid eye practice 28 years ago. Are you kidding me? 28 years ago. And I had worked on creating my rapid eye business for almost a year and I hadn't made more than $200 a month. And I had maxed out all my cards, and this is a really great example of how I was planting seeds and I didn't see them coming up out of the ground and as far as money yet, but I was planting seeds, and you'll understand this more when I speak to this. And I got really, really scared and really, really frustrated. I had maxed out my cards, I had no money, and I went and got all these applications and I was filling them out to get a job. And I was just so upset and so angry. And it's like, I've done all the things. I've thought positively. I've followed the law of attraction. I've done all the things, right? And so I was not in a good place. And I got so mad. I got so mad that I ripped up all the applications. See, I don't even know what to call them. I don't know. I think I've only filled out really given out a couple applications in my entire life. I've always just sort of created my living in different ways, but I ripped them all up. I got so upset. I ripped them all up. And then I sat there. I just had this temper tantrum, right? I just sat there. I'm like, oh shit, now what am I going to do? And I heard this voice. And the voice said, it's taken care of. And I said, and it wasn't my voice. And I'm not like that, kids. I'm very much a gut person. I don't get visions, or very few. I get a little, every now and again I get a vision. I don't hear voices, but I just have this very strong gut intuition. So that was really unusual for me. And I was like, well, apparently you have not lived in the physical dimension for a while, because no money in my account, maxed cards, line of credit maxed. That is not okay. That is not okay. And I was arguing with this voice, kept saying everything is taken care of. Everything is fine. I was like, you are full of shit. I was arguing with, my angel or guide or whatever the hell it was, right? And within 48 hours, I got a call from somebody, and he was looking for practitioners to fit into this sort of system, and he wanted to know what Rapid Eye was. He'd heard about it. He wondered if I would be willing to exchange a session. Well, the session he did with me landed on a money belief that I had called women don't make the money, men make the money. I had no idea I even had that belief. Back to yesterday's live, it was something that was in my world. My father had a PhD and traveled all over the country, was quite well known, and my mom had a 9th grade education and stayed home and raised 14 kids. And so I didn't see women flowing money. I was taught I could do anything boys could do. Yet, because that was an energetic signature in my home growing up, it was in the way. And when we caught that and we cleared that, I made $4,000 in the next 4 days. And I was like, holy crap. So 2 things from that story that I've been talking about. The first thing is that, our beliefs, you can be doing all the work. You can be doing all the right things. And it counts, because all of those seeds I was cultivating through that year by everything I was choosing and everything I was doing. And I was overcoming a lot of my scarcity mentality. I was just doing so much good work. And, so there was all of this stuff trying to come to me. And I had this belief that was like, not for me, thanks. It was that viewfinder is like, I couldn't allow myself to make money because I was female. This is kind of a weird thing, right? So then I I realized that, first of all, I'd planted all these seeds. They were trying to come up out of the ground, and I couldn't even see them. And so when I uncrossed that wire, there was this flood of energy, this flood of money that I had been cultivating, that I had been choosing all along, and it was just there. And I have made my living doing what I love ever since. Like, that was the big turning point for me. And the thing is that there's always stages, and I'm going to talk about this in some of the other lives. But what worked to make money for you 10 years ago? This is something I run into a lot, where somebody was had a really good money run at one point in their career, and they've changed. And so money's changed. And that's the thing people don't get. There's not a formula out there. By the way, please be aware of the stuff online that says, hey, you can make 6 figures in 6 weeks, and this is how you do it. It's not that there's not good stuff there. It's that they're teaching you how they did it, not how you're designed to do it. And they're teaching you how they did it at a particular phase, right? And so that's why I think it's so important to do money awareness ongoing, because as we change, our relationship to money changes, our relationship to abundance and to flow changes, and there's different things required at different times, right? And so and I'm not going to go into all the different phases that after that there was big openings, and then I hit like a block again, and then I was able to see another thing that I was doing. The latest thing that I've really, and this is what the program's going to be about, is that I realized is like the belief work is powerful, but unless you actually generate and create a ongoing, ever-changing, dynamic relationship with your money flows, there'll be times where you get crookedy, crinkety, right? And so we have to cultivate a healthy relationship. Just like, how you relate to your 4-year-old is different than how you relate to your 14-year-old, how you relate to your 40-year-old, right? We actually change. We change. So money and how it comes and how it flows is going to change too. So I tell you that story because I know that each of us, if you're listening to this, you've been asking questions. You're a seeker. Maybe you've done some things, and maybe it's worked for a while. But maybe there's something else required right now. Another awareness, a different expansion, a different way to relate and to flow and to commune with money. And so if you are wanting a better relationship, if you're wanting more ease with your money flows, if you're wanting to turn up your money flows, if you're wanting to see how you create now, or maybe you've never really gotten the money thing down and you've tried everything else, I promise you that the investment you make in this course will be the best investment you have ever made. Right now, it's only $144 through December 25th. After that, it'll be $247 full price. So at that rate, I promise you that it will be the best $144 you've ever spent, because you're going to be able to relate to, create, and generate money from a whole different place. And that is going to be generative over time. It's not everybody is going to shift their money flows in the 21 days. But because of the 21 days, you may shift your money flows over the next years, and it could be a compound interest effect. In fact, I believe that if you take this, that it will be worth millions of dollars. And you say, why am I only charging 144? So some people have that interesting point of view. But I wanted to do another money course that anybody could afford if they chose it. And if anybody is desiring a change with how they feel and their expansion, contraction dynamic with money, this course is for you, is now the time. So I will be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time with part 3. And in the meantime, practice the tools. I'm going to go over them again. So you can, if you feel contracted, you can lower your barriers and expand. If you feel contracted, you can say, is this mine? If you feel contracted, you're like, oh, is this, if it feels like yours and you're having a hard time with the expansion, it's like, what past reality are you prioritizing over your current joy? And if none of that works, go have fun, let go, expand your space by doing something that you love. Cultivate and prioritize joy, because money does follow joy. All right, you kids, you have been awesome. Thank you for playing with me today. And because I'm doing this on my laptop, I don't get to see the comments on the side. So I will, if you've got questions, I will answer you in the comments, and I'll also put the link to the course. So have fun expanding today. Have fun acknowledging what you're creating, and potentially, if the harvest is happening in your world, enjoy it, celebrate it. And if you can't quite see the harvest, know that it's coming. Absolutely know that it's coming. Okay. Mwah! Happy holidays, happy Sunday, and I will see you tomorrow.